Hello, friends. Welcome to a journey that can transform everything you feel, everything you think, everything you experience in your daily life, in your restless heart, in your mind that doesn't stop. Today, we are going to dive deep into Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that has crossed centuries like a resistant flame that does not go out, that defies the strongest wind, offering us practical, real, tangible tools to face chaos with serenity, with inner strength, with a renewed sense of purpose that pulses in every choice we make, in every step we take. Let's start with a journey through time, a courageous leap into a past that echoes in our present in ways you may never have stopped to imagine, to feel, to reflect carefully and calmly. Close your eyes for a brief moment and visualize a world far away, yet strangely close to ours in its raw essence, in its naked truth. We are in Rome, in the year 170 AD, and the stage is set for a story that will guide us, like a light in the darkness, like a map drawn in unknown lands. Get ready to meet men who braved overwhelming storms, who looked the abyss in the eye and found light where others saw only deep shadows, and to discover how they can teach us to do the same today, here, now. Are you ready to take that first step with me, to embark on this adventure that is yours? So come, because it begins right now, and it is for you that it shines brightly. Imagine Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on planet Earth, the supreme emperor of Rome, sitting in a simple military camp far from the golden, shining, majestic halls of the imperial power that he commanded with authority. It is 170 AD, and outside his rough canvas tent, rough to the touch like the life he faced, the air is charged with tension, with imminent danger, with a weight that you can almost feel on your shoulders like invisible armor. Brutal wars against barbarian tribes tear at the borders of the empire like sharp knives, cutting through fragile, time-worn fabric. A silent and deadly plague sweeps through entire cities without any mercy, taking small children with their innocent laughter, fragile elders with their stories, strong warriors with their swords, without distinction or warning, while whispers of conspiracy and betrayal snake among the generals he trusted to protect his throne, his life, his legacy. In the dim, flickering light of a simple candle, he takes a worn quill, dips it in black ink, and writes in his diary with a calm that defies the tumult. Accept whatever comes, for it is as it must be. He is not just commanding entire legions or signing laws for an empire in impending crisis that trembles beneath his feet. He is fighting a deeper, more intimate battle, a lonely struggle to conquer his own fears, his nagging doubts that whisper in the darkness, to find peace as the world around him crumbles like an ancient wall under the relentless weight of time, of history that marches on and on. Now journey with me to another scene, another man, a completely different destiny, but equally powerful in its pure essence. Epictetus, born in a humble slave hut, with iron chains marking his wrists from the first years of his life, the dry, cutting sound of his master's whip as a soundtrack to his young, hard, implacable, shadow-filled days. He had no physical freedom to walk wherever he wanted. He had no land, gold, or titles to call his own, but he discovered something that no one could take away from him with violence, with threats, with cruel punishments that left marks, absolute control over his mind, his free thinking, his indomitable soul that refused to give in. He said, in a voice that cut through the air like a sharp, cold, sure wind, "Nothing dominates me but myself." These two men, separated by chasms of power, wealth, status, and circumstance, lived in times of storm, war that roared like thunder, suffering that cut like a blade, uncertainty that weighed like lead on their tired shoulders, and yet they found a way to lift their heads, take a deep breath, walk firmly with dignity, with a fire interior that would never go away. How did they achieve this against all the odds that fate threw at them? Stoicism was the key that unlocked that door for them, and it can be ours too, if we are willing to turn the knob and enter with courage into what awaits us. Now come back with me to the present, to the year 2025, and look around you carefully. What do you see in your life, in your day, in your routine that runs endlessly like a river without banks. We live in a world that advances without break, a whirlpool of movement, noise, constant pressure that envelops us like a net we cannot break. Screens flash like incessant lightning in our tired eyes. Notifications invade every corner of our silence like hungry mosquitoes, buzzing without rest or respite. Deadlines swallow us like waves, crashing mercilessly on the beach, dragging us down with an unforgiving force. The World Health Organization has dropped a piece of data that weighs like an anchor on our chest, a number that echoes. 40% of us are sinking into exhaustion, weighed down by a pace we didn't ask for, by a future that slips through our fingers like fine, dry sand that we can't hold on to no matter how hard we try. Work drains us of every last drop of energy we have left. Relationships fray like old ropes under too much tension to bear for long. The planet groans under the impact of changes that we don't know how to stop, reverse, or face alone in the silence of the falling night. Does this sound familiar to you? Like an echo of your own story, your own daily struggle? Maybe you've already felt this weight, a pressure that tightens your chest without warning, a feeling of being lost in a current that you can't easily explain or control. But here's the good news. The light that shines at the end of the long, dark tunnel that seems to have no end. Stoicism is not a dusty relic stored in museums or forgotten books on the shelves of ancient libraries. It is a living compass, forged with precision and care to guide us through this modern maelstrom, to help us find balance when the ground shakes beneath our feet, to breathe when the air seems too thin to support the weary soul we carry within us. He calls us to look the chaos in the face and say firmly with conviction, "I can face you, and I will come out stronger on the other side." What if I told you that there is a secret to transforming all this confusion into strength, into something that you can carry with pride and head high on your chest like a medal? It's called amor fati, love of destiny in Latin, an idea that pulses with life, with energy. It's not just accepting life as it comes, like someone swallowing a bitter medicine with your nose covered and your eyes closed. It's embracing it with open arms, loving every bit of it, every unexpected curve of the path you take day after day with your feet, the sunny days that warm the skin and fill the eyes with bright light. Of course, those are easy to love, like a gift you asked for with a smile on your lips. But also the storms that soak us to the bone, the moments that bend us with an invisible punch in the gut, that make us question everything we thought was right, in back. And us, when life challenged you too much, what did you do? What if you received this as a lesson? Let's find out how, together, now that we've lit the flame of Stoicism in our hearts. It's time to take up the tools it hands us with open hands, ready to guide us. They're like golden keys, gleaming in the light, ready to unlock doors you never knew were closed. Doors that open to a life that's fuller, stronger, more deeply yours. Let's start with the 4 virtues, your shield against the chaos of existence, your armor to face the sunny days and dark nights that the life inevitably brings. First, courage. It's not something from movies, from heroes with flowing capes and swords shining in the sun. It's for you, in everyday life, in the small and big moments that test who you really are inside. You know, deep down in your soul, that you need to give to grow. Second, wisdom. It is the soft, almost imperceptible light that erases that insistent, cruel inner voice that whispers, "You are not enough. You will never be able to handle this," guiding you towards clear, firm, solid choices, even in the dense fog of doubt that sometimes clouds everything you see and feel. Third, justice. It's reaching out to a friend who is sinking into silence, lost in their own thoughts, listening with genuine attention when you just want to escape to the comfort of your safe bubble, giving someone what they deserve, a compliment, a support, a moment, even if it costs time, effort, or a piece of your pride that you guard so carefully. Fourth, temperance. It's saying enough to the excess that engulfs us like a high wave, turning off the cell phone that screams for attention with incessant notifications, taking a deep breath when the world accelerates around you like a runaway train, choosing the simple, the essential, instead of the chaos that drags us to the bottom. These virtues are not just pretty ideas written on ancient parchments kept in museums. They are pure, living, pulsating practice made to be used now, today, in this instant that you breathe. Think about it. How would you use courage today? On this day that unfolds before your eyes like a blank canvas, maybe to talk about something that has been stuck in your throat for weeks, months, something that burns to come out and needs air or temperance, to put down the endless scroll of social media and look out the window, see the sky changing color, feel the fresh air coming in. These are the foundations of Stoicism, the pillars that hold everything else we will explore together on this journey together. They are not distant. They are not for toga-clad philosophers sitting on white marble columns. They are for you, for me, for the baker on the corner who wakes up before the sun, for the mother who races against time, for the student who works late under the dim light of the lamp. They call us to live with intention, with a clear purpose, with a strength that comes from within and does not bow to the strong wind. Marcus Aurelius carried these virtues on the battlefield amid the clang of swords and the smell of wet earth. Epictetus carried them in the chains that marked his skin, transforming pain into a lesson. And us, we can carry them on the crowded bus that shakes, in the supermarket queue that doesn't move, in the solitude of our room when the silence is heavy. They are simple but transformative, like a small seed that, with time and care, grows into a huge tree with roots that no one can uproot. Which of these virtues have you felt today without even realizing it? Courage in a moment of fear that tried to stop you? Justice in a gesture of kindness that no one saw? They are there, pulsing, waiting for you to pick them up and use them as torches to light your path, to warm your soul, to guide your steps amid the storm that sometimes life insists on bringing. Now let's move on to the next tool, a rough jewel, cut in the harshness of life, that Epictetus handed to us with calloused hands and steady eyes, the dichotomy of control. He, the former slave turned master of the soul, gave us this pearl with a phrase that cuts like a sharp blade through the silence. What I don't dominate doesn't dominate me in your veins. You don't control the traffic that jams the city like a knot impossible to untie, blocking streets and testing patience, the colleague who complains endlessly like a broken radio that no one can turn off, the rain that wets your plans with an almost personal stubbornness, falling in thick drops without asking permission or giving explanations. To all of this, your next step in the midst of chaos, the way you face what comes with your eyes open and your heart firm. If the bus is late again, leaving you at the stop with the clock ticking, you can curse the entire universe, punch the air in anger that leads nowhere, or you can pick up a book, a headset, and turn the delay into an unexpected gift, a moment stolen for yourself, for your peace. Test this tomorrow or today if the day still offers you a chance. When something goes off the rails, the boss who changes the deadline at the last minute without warning, the friend who cancels dinner without a word, the tire that goes flat on the dark, potholed road. Stop for a second and ask calmly, clearly, can I change this? If not, let go. Let it go like a leaf that falls in the wind without resistance, without weight pulling you down, without ties holding you back. If so, act firmly, with focus, without hesitating for a moment, as if you know what you want. It seems simple, almost too obvious to be true, but it is powerful like silent thunder that echoes within you, that resonates in the soul. Epictetus experienced this, trapped in a damp cell, with his body chained by cold irons that cut the skin, but his mind free like a bird that flies high in the blue sky. We can experience it in the rush of work that doesn't stop, in the noise of a house full of voices, in the solitude of an empty room at night under the dim light of the blinking lamp. Have you ever thought about how many times you were irritated by something that you couldn't change, that didn't depend on your will or effort? How many hours did you waste fighting against what was already done, against what had already passed like water between your fingers? How about exchanging anger for calm, tightness in your chest for a deep breath that fills your lungs and renews you? This is the dichotomy of control, a clear, sharp line that divides what is yours from what is not, a compass that points to where your energy should go, where your soul should turn with purpose. Imagine this. You are stuck in traffic, the clock ticks like a relentless enemy, and nothing changes with your impatience. It only consumes you, wears you down, ages you. Now, imagine breathing, accepting, and using these minutes to think about the day, to plan something good, to listen to music that soothes your soul and brings you back. The traffic doesn't change, but you do. You grow, you gain, you transform. Epictetus teaches us that freedom is not in dominating the world outside with its rules and unpredictable whims, but in dominating the world inside, in the space between your ears, in the pulse of your chest that beats steadily despite everything. Let's make this real, palpable. The next time something takes you off track, a delay that irritates like a stone in your shoe, a criticism that hurts like a cut, a failure that weighs like lead, divide it into two mental columns. What do I control? What do I not control? Focus on the first with all your strength, with all your soul. Ignore the second as if it didn't even exist on your horizon. I did this last week. My flight was delayed for 2 whole hours. And instead of complaining to the wind that doesn't listen, I read a book that had been in my backpack for months, forgotten among papers and keys. I left richer, not more angry. I left more me, more whole. This is Stoicism in action, a power you already have, but perhaps you haven't yet used with all its power, with all its light. What are you going to release today? A fight that isn't worth wasting your voice, a delay that doesn't explain and doesn't deserve your anger. Try it and see how the weight decreases, how the day makes room for what really matters, for what is rightfully yours. Or what if we put these ideas into a routine that you can touch, feel, live every day as a ritual that belongs to you and defines you? Here's a simple proposal, but it can change the way you wake up with your eyes still heavy, the way you breathe in the middle of the day, the way you sleep with your mind at peace, the way you exist in the world with presence and purpose. Wake up and grab a notebook or a crumpled napkin on the corner of the table, a corner of your cell phone with a cracked screen, anything that be within reach of your sleepy, clumsy hands. Write down 3 things that make you open your eyes with desire, that remind you why it's worth getting out of bed, even when your body complains and your soul hesitates. It could be your child's smile that lights up the room like a warm ray of sunlight, the smell of hot coffee that rises from the cup and hugs you like an old friend, a dream that still pulses deep in your chest like a stubborn flame that refuses to die under the weight of routine. Cute, a poetic whim to fill the ego or pass the time. Science confirms that this works, that it has deep roots in what makes us human and alive. A study from the University of California, carried out in 2023, showed that writing down daily gratitude, small or big things, no matter the size, reduces stress by 23% and improves sleep by 16%, as if it were a natural remedy for a busy mind that spins endlessly. Why? Because it pulls us back to what matters, takes us away from the noise of screens that flash like neon lights, from voices that scream more without ever shutting up. During the day, let the virtues guide you like bright stars in a dark and vast sky. Courage for the confrontation that you have avoided for days out of fear of what may come. Justice to listen to those who no one hears amid the noise of the crowd. Temperance to pause when the world speeds up too much and drags you with it like a current. Carry this with you on the crowded bus that jolts through the crooked streets, in the office full of crumpled papers and calls, in the supermarket queue that doesn't move and tests your patience. Be a stoic in movement, a beacon in the midst of the storm that doesn't warn you. At night, before turning off the light and closing your eyes to the silence that falls, reflect calmly, honestly, without rushing. What did I do well today? Where can I be better tomorrow? Write 1 line, just one, with a steady hand. I was patient with my colleague who irritated me, or I lost my temper in traffic, but I learned something from it that I take with me. It's like an honest chat with yourself, a mirror that reflects your soul without filters, without masks, without lies. You don't need whole hours. You don't need absolute perfection that's intimidating. It needs you, your desire to grow, to see yourself clearly and truthfully. This routine is a cycle that closes and starts again like the sun. Gratitude to start the day with your feet firmly on the ground. Virtues to live with your head up and your eyes open. Reflection to close with a light heart and a peaceful mind. I tested this for a whole week. I woke up writing down, "My family who waits for me with love." the sun that comes through the window and calls me, a new project that excites and moves me. And at night, I wrote down what worked or failed in the day that passed like a movie. On the third day, the day felt lighter, as if I were carrying fewer stones in my pockets, less weight on my hunched back. You don't need a fancy notebook or an expensive pen that impresses others. A torn piece of paper will do. A notepad on your cell phone works just as well, because what matters is the act, the intention that you put there with your heart. If the role intimidates you, say out loud to yourself, "Today I am grateful for this, for that, for this more." Stoicism does not require complicated rituals that consume time or energy. It demands presence. It demands that you be here, now, in this moment that is yours. Seneca said urgently, with fire in his words, "While we postpone, life passes like a breath that does not return." So do not postpone. Start small, but start now. Today, in this moment that does not wait. Maybe tomorrow. 3 gratitudes when opening your eyes. My dog wagging his tail like crazy. The silence of the morning that welcomes me. A plan that cheers me up for the day that begins. During the day, practice a virtue. Courage to say no to something that sucks your soul. Temperance to turn off notifications that pull you like chains. At night, ask, what did I do well today? Write or just think, but do it with an open heart, with your soul present. Do you want to see this come to life? Leave the paper and pulsate in the real world like a heart that beats hard. We will bring examples that show how Stoicism works for people like you and me on ordinary days, on ordinary streets, in lives that are not in history books or illuminated stages. I met Anna, a teacher in Sao Paulo who faces classes of noisy teenagers, those who transform the classroom into a storm of voices, laughter, and pure chaos that echoes off the walls. Before entering the class, she uses a Stoic trick that she learned on her own, almost by instinct. Negative visualization. Imagine the worst possible scenario that could happen that day. The projector breaking down in the middle of the most important explanation, leaving the screen black. The students screaming as if there were no tomorrow and no rules to hold them back. The chalk disappearing from the table as if by a ridiculous magic trick that no one explains, and plans how to stay firm, how to take a deep breath, how to not get carried away by the whirlwind. "Forward," she told me with a calm smile, her eyes shining like someone who knows what she's doing and why. Result, she walks into the room like a mountain, unshakable, ready for whatever comes, whatever curve the day throws at her hard. Another case, João, an app driver in Rio de Janeiro, driving through the hot, noisy and chaotic streets of the city that never sleeps. He doesn't control the rude passengers who get into the car, the guy who complains about the air conditioning as if it were a personal crime, the woman who talks loudly on the phone as if he were invisible or deaf, ignoring his presence. But he controls what he does with it, what he lets into his inner peace. A smile instead of a grumble that no one hears or wants to hear. Silence instead of a fight that leads nowhere and only drains energy. Ever since I started letting go of what I can't control, I drive with peace, he told me, his eyes shining in the rear view as he told his story with quiet pride. These are real people. Not philosophers in robes in ancient temples or marble statues, using Stoicism to transform the everyday into something lighter, stronger, more human, more alive. Now, take this for yourself, for your day, for your pulsating now. Take gratitude as a starting point. Tomorrow, when you wake up, write 3 quick things, without thinking too much, without complicating things. My hot coffee that wakes me up. The sun that comes through the window, a friend who supports me with a word. Don't complicate, just feel what you write, let it flow. Or test the dichotomy of control. The next time something irritates you, the Wi-Fi that goes down in the middle of work like a betrayal, the boss who changes everything without warning or explanation, divide it into 2 parts. What do I control? What do I not control? Act on the first with strength, with determination. Release the second like smoke that rises and disappears into the air. Maybe try courage. Say something that has been stuck in your throat for days, with respect, but with a firmness that doesn't waver or tremble. I don't agree with this, and here's why, clearly. Or justice. Listen to someone you normally ignore. Give 5 minutes of your day to understand what they feel, what they carry. These steps are simple, but powerful like a river that runs quietly, shaping stones over time. Anna faces teenagers with a calmness that impresses those who see it. João drives with a serenity that infects those who travel with him. And you, where do you want more peace in your life that sometimes feels like a battlefield? At work, with so many demands that they keep growing like weeds. At home, with voices that compete and don't shut up even for a moment. Inside yourself, with doubts that whisper and don't let you sleep peacefully. These tools take you there, guide you, and cost nothing other than your willingness to try to move to be more. In the comments, tell me, which one will you test first? Gratitude to warm the day like a gentle fire, control to ease the weight that bends you over, a virtue to guide you like a star. I want to know how you're going to make Stoicism shine in your day, how you're going to make it yours, how you're going to live it. We already hold the Stoic tools in our hands, feeling their weight, the heat of the metal forged in the flame of philosophy, ready to carve our lives with purpose and brute force. But what stops us from using them with all the power they demand? With all the determination we deserve to bring to the surface from the depths of the soul, where it waits patiently. Let's face head-on the barriers that pull us back, that hold us like invisible anchors embedded in the bottom of the sea, rebellious, hidden under deceptively calm waves that disguise the treacherous current. They are like heavy, rough stones, rough to the touch, blocking the path that we want to follow with firm and determined steps. But Stoicism hands us the hammer, sharp, solid, hot from the fire that shaped it with precision, to break them into pieces and open the way with our own calloused hands, with our own sweat dripping onto the dry earth path. The most common, the most stubborn perhaps, procrastination. Have you ever left a dream molding in the drawer of oblivion? A task pushed to tomorrow that never arrives, that gets lost among the days like dust carried by an unforgiving wind? I've done this more times than my fingers can count, more times than my memory wants to admit or face honestly. A text that I put off until the deadline turned to dark, bitter ashes. A plan that was scribbled on yellowed paper and forgotten in a corner. A promise I made to myself on silent nights, staring at the ceiling and let escape like smoke between open fingers, dissipating into the air. Science gives us an electric shock of reality that we can't ignore, that won't let us escape or close our eyes. 1 in 5 of us chronically procrastinate, according to the American Psychological Association, and the price is high, sharp, a real burden that we carry on our shoulders. Anxiety that grows like a weed in fertile ground, taking over every dark corner of the mind with deep, thorny roots. Sleep that flees like a bird, frightened by sudden thunder in the night. Guilt that weighs like lead on the shoulders, tired, bending day after day under its silent and relentless yoke, a weight that cannot be explained. Second barrier on our horizon, more subtle, but no less dangerous, like a quiet serpent, lack of honesty. A little lie seems harmless, almost an automatic reflex that comes out without thinking, like a nervous tick. It was the traffic, you say with a forced smile, almost rehearsed in the mirror, when in fact the alarm clock lost the battle to the warm pillow and the lazy sleep that embraced you with soft, seductive arms. But these escapades, these little frauds that we tell ourselves and others, become ropes that tie you in tight knots, pulling you into a dark maze of disguises and half-truths that you don't even notice until you are trapped, lost in your own shadows, with no exit in sight, no light to guide. Third stone, perhaps the most treacherous of all, the one that hides best. Comparison. Open Instagram, and there is the poison, served in brilliant doses, irresistible, seductive like a siren song. Perfect lives in photos edited with impeccable filters that hide the cracks and bad days. Bodies sculpted like polished marble statues under perfect lights. Breathtaking trips that seem unattainable for those on this side of the screen, looking with hungry eyes and a tight heart, feeling the emptiness grow. But it's all smoke and mirrors, a cruel illusion that robs us of peace, that makes us look to the side instead of looking inside, at what we really are, at what we really have in our hands. These barriers, procrastination, dishonesty, comparison, are anti-Stoic habits, silent enemies that creep in the shadows and keep us from the life we want to build, the life we can grab tooth and nail if we dare take the step. They are not new, They were not born yesterday with the brightness of screens or the sound of notifications. Marcus Aurelius faced them while writing under the flickering light of a candle in war tents, the sound of swords echoing in the distance like a battle drum. Epictetus overcame them while carrying chains that cut the skin and marked the soul with scars that told stories of resistance. How do we break these stones into 1,000 pieces until they turn to dust beneath our feet and the path opens clear before us like a clear horizon? Stoicism hands us strategies, sharp and well-forged weapons tested in the fire of real life. In the heat of the internal battles we fight against our own weaknesses, against the echoes of our fear. Against procrastination, use the direct wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, which echoes like a command in the midst of battle, cutting through the silence with military precision. Do what's in front of you. It's not about climbing the entire mountain at once, like a hero of legend, with flowing cape and glory in his shining eyes that defies the sky. Without weight that bends you or paralyzes you, they light the spark, and the fire catches on, taking you forward like a wave that never stops growing, that gains strength with each movement. A dream that is too big, that intimidates like a giant shadow projected on the wall in the light of the full moon. Break it down into smaller, digestible, human pieces as real as the ground beneath your feet. A draft scribbled in a corner of crumpled paper. A quick phone call you've avoided for weeks for fear of what you might hear. A tentative beginning that comes to life with time and patient prodding. I tested this with a text that I had been putting off for weeks, months even, a weight that I carried on my conscience like a backpack full of damp stones. I sat down, wrote a sentence with my hand shaking with uncertainty and doubt, and the rest came like running water, flowing effortlessly, surprising me with the ease that came after that first courageous strike against inertia. Try it yourself. What can you start now just for 5 minutes without fear, without waiting for the perfect moment that never comes, that always slips away like a mirage? Against the lack of honesty, Seneca provokes us with a truth that cuts like a sharp knife in the silence of the night, which leaves no room for excuses. The truth sets you free. Have you ever thought about a day of total sincerity, without masks, without veils that hide what you are inside, what you feel in your chest? Say what you think with respect, but without detours that confuse and confuse, without unnecessary curves that divert. I did this once at a dinner with friends, a moment that could have been common and forgettable. I admitted that the food I didn't like, being careful not to hurt those who cooked with so much effort and care, and the conversation became more lively, more real, as if the air had suddenly cleared, as if everyone was breathing lighter and truer, free from pretense. Try, next chance, be a crystal clear mirror, not a blurry filter that distorts and hides the light. What would it be like to say I arrived late because I was late, without inventing fragile stories that crumble at the first wind, that fall apart with a closer look? Against comparison, Marcus Aurelius pulls us back to the ground with a firmness that anchors, that makes us stop and think clearly. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Did you take a step, however small it may seem? A step that no one saw, but that you felt deep in your chest like a pulse? That's what matters, not the false shine of the screens that lie, that show half-truths framed in artificial lights. I used to measure myself by others. Friends with bigger houses filled with light and wide windows that reflected the morning sun. Careers that took off faster like rockets cutting through the blue sky. Lives that looked perfect in photos posed with rehearsed smiles and dreamy backdrops. Until I realized one quiet day, sitting with a cold coffee in my hand and the silence around me like a hug. My path is unique, crooked perhaps, full of curves and holes, but mine and yours is also yours alone, with your own marks, your own colors, your own rhythm. Now, let's look beyond ourselves, to the world that surrounds us, that breathes alongside us, that pulses with voices, faces, stories that intersect ours like threads in a living tapestry. Stoicism is not just about the eye, about mending what's inside, polishing the edges of our soul with care and patience. It's about the we, about how we live together, how we touch others with what we carry, how we leave marks that echo beyond us. Think of the virtue of justice. It does not shine only in us, in an isolated corner where no one sees or feels it, but among us, in the bridges that we build with effort or let collapse with neglect and indifference. We live in a broken world, fragmented like a mirror broken into 1,000 shining pieces, where screams drown out dialogues like deafening thunder that echoes in the mountains. Opinions become sharp weapons that cut instead of unite, and bridges collapse before they are even finished, falling into rivers of silence and distance that widen like wounds. Can we use Stoicism to build those bridges again, to connect where there is emptiness, to heal where there are open and bleeding wounds that no one wants to see? I met Clara, an activist in Recife who fights for housing in the outskirts, where the floor is wet mud that sucks your feet like a hungry swamp, and the ceiling is uncertainty that drips with each rain, threatening to collapse on tired heads. She told me, with her eyes steady as a rock, her voice calm as a river that runs gently between stones, "I don't control the system that fails, that forgets these people as if they were nameless shadows, but I control how I speak to those who disagree with me, how I plant seeds in the hard and dry soil, in action, living, breathing, changing what he touches with soft but determined hands, with a touch that stays and grows." And you? Have you ever had an argument that got too heated, that turned into fire instead of light, that burned instead of lighting the way forward like a beacon? How could it have been more fair? Perhaps listening before responding with haste and heat, breathing before exploding like a volcano that cannot be contained, that cannot be held back by anything. Stoicism calls us to be lighthouses, not storms, to light the way with a firm and constant light instead of throwing rays that destroy everything around, that leave ashes where there could be life. These barriers, procrastination, dishonesty, comparison, are personal tests, yes, internal battles that we fight in silence, but overcoming them makes us unshakable rocks for others too, for the world that surrounds us with its voices and its silences, with its pains and its timid hopes. Clara transforms debates into understanding, into seeds planted in the hard soil of reality that one day can sprout like strong trees, and we can transform conversations into connection, into something that stays, that echoes beyond the moment, that builds. Think about a recent fight with a co-worker who doesn't listen and just talks over you, a relative who challenges you with words as harsh as stones, a stranger on the street who irritates you with a gesture without thinking. What could you have done differently, with more justice in your heart, with more stoicism in your guiding soul? Maybe let go of the pride that held you back like a rusty chain. Hear what you didn't want to hear in the heat. Speak with less fire and more clarity, more purpose, more soul. This is Stoicism coming out of you and touching others. It is justice becoming a bridge where before there was only fallen rubble, dust and silence that suffocate and separate. Think about the last conflict you saw or experienced, perhaps on the networks, where words fly like poisoned arrows cutting the air without mercy, or on the street, where eyes cross with suspicion and invisible walls rise in seconds. How could Stoic justice change this? Could it make a chink in the armor? These barriers are traps of the modern world, sticky webs that catch us off guard, that ensnare us without us realizing it until it's too late. We procrastinate our dreams until they turn to forgotten dust in the drawers of our memory. We hide truths behind fragile curtains that tear with the slightest wind that blows. We get lost in false mirrors of social networks that blatantly lie with plastic smiles and artificial lights that blind. But Stoicism gives us the hammer to crack these stones, to open the eye walk with our own calloused hands, with our own sweat dripping onto the earth, with our own will burning like a flame that won't go out. Of my conscience, I started and finished in half an hour, surprised at myself with a smile like someone who had won a quiet battle against time and laziness, against lying. Practice gentle truth. Be honest, but with heart, with care that you welcome rather than sting or push away like a blade. Say, I failed at this, instead of making excuses that crumble like sand castles at high tide, that don't hold up to a whiff of reality. Against comparison, write down one victory of yours every day, just one. Small or big, it doesn't matter. I was kind to those who didn't deserve it. I finished something that I put off out of laziness or fear. It's yours, not someone else's. It's what defines you, builds you, makes you greater than yesterday. And in the world outside, in the dance with the others who surround us with their lives intersecting ours, listen before you speak. It's simple, almost silly, but it changes everything. Builds instead of breaking, unites instead of separating, like sharp knives cutting through the air. Why is this essential, vital, urgent, like the air we breathe and keeps us alive? Because the world surrounds us with distractions that steal time from us like thieves in the dark night, with weights that bend us to the ground like branches under heavy, cold snow, with illusions that blind us with false lights that promise and deliver nothing but emptiness. But Stoicism gives us back the rudder of our boat, makes us captains of our soul, gives us the helm to navigate even in rough seas, in storms that roar and test our strength. Think of Clara, firm in the fight for others, a lighthouse in the darkness of injustice that does not go out, that does not give in to wind or rain. Think about yourself. Which barrier holds you tighter today? Now, in this moment that waits for no one, that task that you put off as if it were eternal, a monster that grows in the shadows and stares at you with cold eyes, that truth you swallow for fear of what comes next, of what they might think or say in response, that envy that consumes you in silence, eating you up inside like slow-burning acid. Let's bring it down together. Let's take this hammer and hit it until it cracks, until the sound echoes like thunder on the mountain, until the ground shakes beneath our feet. In the comments, tell me, which of these stones will you move first? Procrastination that paralyzes you like a chain around your feet, pinning you to the ground? Comparison that diminishes you like a crooked mirror that distorts your image? I want to know how you will make your way with that stoic hammer in your hand, how you will make the ground shake beneath your steps, how you will rise stronger, more you, more alive than ever, with your chest full and your eyes open to what comes. We have reached the last act, the point where we look ahead to the horizon that is drawn with promise and uncertainty. How does Stoicism guide us to the future we have not yet touched? So far, we have lit the flame, picked up the tools, broken down barriers with firm blows. Now, it is time to ask, how do we take this forward? How do we make these ideas a beacon for the days to come? The world changes fast. Technology that accelerates like a raging river. Crises that appear like thunder. Choices that weigh more with each passing year. But Stoicism, with its ancient roots, does not age. It adapts, it molds, it holds us like an anchor in seas that never stop rocking. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire at war. Epictetus found freedom in slavery. They had no screens, algorithms, or climate change to face, but they had the same human chaos as we do. Fear, doubt, desire. The future may seem like a giant, a tall shadow, but Stoicism teaches us that its size doesn't matter. What matters is how you face it, how hard you move forward. Let's paint this picture together, a future where you use virtues to decide, the dichotomy of control to focus, the Stoic routine to live with intention. It's not utopia, it's not fantasy, it's practical, it's real. It's possible. Today, the sun still rises, the coffee still warms your hands, but tomorrow can be yours if you take what you've learned and walk with it. Let's see how Stoicism gets us there, step by step, blow by blow, day by day. Imagine next year, or the next 10 if you want to aim far. What do you see? A new job, a bigger family, a hotter, maybe noisier planet. Stoicism doesn't predict what's coming, but it prepares you for whatever comes, like a shield that won't crack. Think about technology. It connects us, but it drowns us in notifications, choices, noise. Stoic temperance helps you switch off, choose silence over chaos, use the screen without being used for her. I've found myself scrolling through my phone for hours, lost in posts that don't matter, until I stopped, took a breath and said, enough, firmly. You can do the same. 5 minutes without a screen a day, and the world becomes clearer. And the crises don't stop. An economy that oscillates, a climate that punishes, societies that divide like tectonic plates. Stoic courage makes you face what you don't control with your head held high. Act where you can. How? Clara fighting for housing in a forgotten Recife. The future will ask for tough choices, changing careers, taking care of those who are aging, deciding what to leave behind. Stoic wisdom guides you, makes you weigh what is fair, what is essential, what is yours. Last year, I traded a stable job for an uncertain dream. I used the dichotomy of control. I don't control the result, but I control the effort. It worked, not by magic, but by focus. Stoicism in the future is this: virtues as a compass, control as a rudder, you as the captain of a boat that does not sink even when the waves rise and the wind screams. How do you take this to tomorrow, to the next month, to the next decade? Here's the plan. Simple and solid as a well-cut stone. First, define a virtue to guide your year. Courage, perhaps, to take that step that scares you, like asking for a raise or letting go of what holds you back. Write it down, put it in the mirror, live it every day. I chose justice in 2024. I listened more, I judged less, and my conversations changed. Less fire, more bridges. Second, practice justice dichotomy of the weekly. Sunday night, take a notebook, divide. What control this week? My effort, my words. Tide oars upon waking. My son laughing. The sun, a new day. A virtue during the day, a reflection at night. I did this for a month. I started by being grateful for the coffee. I practiced temperance at work. I reflected before going to sleep. The chaos diminished. I grew. These steps are not theory. They are action. They are solid ground. The future does not expect perfection, but rewards effort. Stoicism gives you the map. You chart the route. Start small. Tomorrow, choose a virtue. Write down what controls you. Be grateful for something simple. Next week, repeat, adjust, grow. In a year, you look back and see a path opened, not by luck, but by choice, by blows given with the hammer that is already in your hand. What now? The future is not a blank canvas waiting for paint. It is a field waiting for your hands, your work, your soul. Stoicism is not to read and put on the shelf. It is not a trophy to admire. It is to use, to get dirty, to live with until it becomes part of you. Take what we said, the virtues that guide you like stars, the control that anchors you, the routine that shapes you, and take it to the next day, to the next step, to the next you. Start today. Before going to sleep, write down one thing that did you good. One thing you did well, one thing for tomorrow. It could be simple. The fresh wind, I helped a friend, I'm going to run. I did this yesterday. The sunset, I was patient, I'm going to write. I woke up lighter, more ready. Virtue like justice and listening to someone who no one listens to. I want to know, not because I'm curious, but because your every step is a spark. Your every choice is an echo. The Stoic future is not a destination. It's a way of walking, of facing what comes with an open chest and steady eyes. Seneca said, "Life is long if you know how to use it. Use it. Start now. Don't wait for the sun to rise. It is already rising in you. Raise the hammer, hit the stone, and make the ground shake with the sound of your will. The future is yours. How will you build it?" We have reached the end of this journey, and what a journey it has been. We began by lighting the flame of Stoicism, a light that warms and guides. We explored tools like virtues and control to live with purpose. We broke down barriers like procrastination and comparison that held us back, and we looked to a future where we are captains of our soul. All of this leads us to a simple but powerful truth. Life is not what happens to you, but what you do with what happens to you. A lesson that Marcus Aurelius carried in the war, which Epictetus found in chains, which Clara lives in the streets of Recife. Stoicism is not a dusty old manual. It is a hammer in your hands, ready to break stones, open paths, build bridges. Think about it. Every day is a chance to be braver, more just, more you, to let go of what you have, to act where you can. Helm, you decide the direction. This is the reflection I take with me. Stoicism gives us back the power that we sometimes forget. It makes us owners of now and architects of tomorrow. So, take a deep breath, feel the ground beneath your feet, and take it with you. not as words, but as a fire that doesn't go out, as an echo that resonates in the soul. And before I finish, I want to thank you. Yes, you who stayed this far, who immersed yourself in this journey with me, who opened your mind and heart to these old ideas that still beat. Thank you for watching, for giving your time, for being part of this. Every second you spent here is a gift, and I don't take that for granted. If this video lit something in you, if it made you think, feel, or want to act, then clicking the like button is more than a gesture. It's a sign that this flame will continue burning, illuminating more ways. And if you want more reflections like this, more tools to bring down stones and build bridges in your life, let's go together, step by step, blow to a stronger future. Tell me what you take from here. Ritello, but not the fire. He stays with you, warming, guiding. So until next time, take Stoicism to heart, use it in your everyday life, make the ground shake with your steps. One last thank you, one last wish, that you live with courage, with justice, with soul. See you soon. Now go build your future.